woman when you see one. Well, you're blind in one eye, brother, and you can't see out the other. 'Cause I've been here for quite some time.
Connie, Barnabas, Davis.
It's been quite the mystery how you missed a girl this fine.
Grammy. This is just some fun for a Friday.
I never said a omission.
This is the
In
song.
my books,
I don't think you know a good
a
woman
capital
when you see one.
crime. Well, you're
Good morning,
one short
Dave.
of a full load, heading down the wrong road. Turn around, boy, I'm over here. You got one oar in the water.
Thanks for the
That's
shares.
why you rowing so dear.
For the record, this song was a reframing song. We'll talk about that in a minute.
And make one thing perfectly.
I wrote this because I never ever got asked out on a date.
See, it
couldn't be my face.
'Cause I could launch 1,000 ships for the sailors who would brave the 7 seas to kiss my lips. And all
my poker too.
I respectfully conclude.
This is the low self-esteem,
'Cause I don't think you know, I don't think you know.
new self-esteem song. I don't think you know.
I don't think you know, I don't think you know. I don't think you know,
I don't think you know a good woman when you see one. Okay, what does that have to do with you and fear? Well, I want to talk to you about being framed. And for some reason, I just felt like putting on this song because I'm not feeling particularly deep, but I do have some really important things to say to you because we've been talking about really jettisoning the loser mindset. And so I just to say, this song, I sat alone, single and stupid in LA writing this song. I swear to you, no one ever asked me out. You're blind in one eye, so I wrote, you're blind. You can't, because I've been here. And I was so depressed, and I decided I would make myself laugh instead. It's been quite the mystery. How could you miss all of this? Can any of you relate? The sin of omission.
My book is a capital crime.
So what are you going to do? Sit there and feel like a total failure? Feel like a loser? Feel like a wallflower? Or write a song like this and prophesy? And you know what? Later on, the Lord told me something. He said, Julie, the way you're interpreting not being asked out is out of a loser lens of rejection. And he said, I interpret it as I've saved you a lot of grief, and that what I'm doing in you means I don't want you running through the mill of a bunch of relationships because
You know a good woman when you see one.
okay, just had to get to the end. What the Lord said to me was, if you only knew that what you're interpreting as being a loser and being rejected and not being asked out and not being attractive and being passed over is me saving you a lot of heartache. Because as far as I'm concerned, little Julie Lavender from Bakersfield, California, you're already married. And you need to start acting like it. I've already set you aside. Oh, so part of my loser recovery process was to write that song. I don't think you know a good woman when you see one. Because you know, you can deal with a lot of pain through laughter. And one of the number one ways that I deal with grief and pain and stress is through laughter. Okay, so that's just one little story that way. But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, you've been framed. You've been framed. You've been framed by the enemy. You've been framed by your own thinking. And you've been framed by your passivity. because somebody could just be walking along and minding their own business, wrong place, wrong time, and somebody can associate you with something terrible, and the next thing you know, the word gets out and you're being gossiped about, and your whole reputation is on the line. You're like, I was just minding my own business, and all of a sudden now I'm framed as the person who X, whether it's true or not. And we just kind of are walking along like flotsam and jetsam in our lives, and we get framed by the enemy and by our lack of awareness of what's happening and the way that we're being taught to think and be and act like losers. I just have seen it over and over and over this week. I saw it in relationship to the debate. Then today, the first text I was getting, oh my gosh, the president has COVID. Pray, we gotta pray. We have to really pray. Melania has kidney problems, and the president, he's got this and that and the other thing. And okay, I'm really tired. We had a big thing right out there last night that changed everything around here. It was a super powerful thing that happened here last night with people who wouldn't have ever gathered the way we gathered to do some serious business and change our community. It was awesome, and I'm tired. So I'm sitting there and I get these little texts. Oh my gosh! And I'm like, I had to hit the pause button because I was so tired I couldn't care yet. Okay, are you ever so tired you just can't care yet? Like even your anxiety has to wait until you wake up and get enough caffeine and you'd be to start worrying. Well, that's kind of where I was. But I have to tell you how many believers and how many people were texting me, oh my gosh, we gotta pray, the president, blah, blah, blah. My first thought was when I saw a guy named Ali Alexander, who's awesome on Periscope, amazing young man of color, and a consultant, political consultant, and a believer, and he's the guy who put out the videos showing Joe Biden saying that our military were stupid bastards. He found those and researched those. My thought was, wow. Well, no, that somebody else said, hey, wait a minute. The president's been on hydroxychloroquine. Okay, so come on. And data point. And then there's false tests, right? So they could be retested in a few days so there are those things. And there's the factor of the recovery rate of this thing, right? But when I really just woke up enough to maybe potentially be upset and frame this thing, I went, wow, what an opportunity for people to see this man go through this with the grace and the power and the confidence that our president has and the first lady has. And if they're smart, they'll let everyone into that process and they'll talk about it and they'll share. And that one thing might have more to do with removing the propaganda and setting people free from fear, just watching him go through this. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't come right out and talk about what he was using. HCQ, zithromycin, and zinc. And to talk about his symptoms and to talk about his family and what they've been through. And now, all these people who might have been tempted not to relate to him because, that's the president, I'm not sure if I like him. And, he doesn't know. I went through COVID and my family went through COVID and, he's off in the White House, right? No, now people are going to be paying attention to him over the next 14 days, big time. People are going to be paying attention, hoping he gets really sick and he has to be on a ventilator, and people are going to just want the scoop. And how much you want about our president just goes, the fake news, here's what's really happening. We need to see people who give us courage. And we need to frame ourselves as not the girl that never gets asked out, but the girl who has so much value, she's already been set aside for something and preserved from something else. Not that, oh my God, here it is, the losing thing, and what that was so terrible. No, what's the upside? Immediately skip to upside. Immediately skip to what's possible. Immediately join in to the assumption that you live out of resurrection. What could be possible in this circumstance? And this is the thing. We have to be so careful. We also need to, I just think this is a gift from God. And what the enemy meant for evil, God is going to use for good. But you could totally frame this in a very negative way, and people did. They just jumped right into it. They did it immediately on the debates, and I'm not saying when I first saw the COVID thing and I saw this and that, I mean, you have sort of a reaction. You kind of, wow, that doesn't, I don't like that. I don't like how that felt. I didn't enjoy the debate the other. I wanted to, man. I was ready. I was so ready. I was ready to just enjoy this debate, and I didn't enjoy it hardly at all. And it left me with a really unsettled feeling. Maybe the news left you with an unsettled feeling. But you know what? The quicker you can pull away from being framed by your circumstances and you stay reframed by what God is doing and by thinking like a winner. Winners think like what's possible. Why not? Why couldn't I show up? Why couldn't I be the most powerful person in the room? When we moved to this town, New England has a reputation for being the frozen chosen and this progressive thing. And so I certainly met my share of neighbors who were very active and activists in that way. And they certainly seemed to own the turf and the territory in many ways. And I remember that the Holy Spirit inspired me to have one of them over for dinner. Big mucky muck, very influential woman and her husband for dinner. And you would have thought I was, going to have to go out and perform live in front of some people and experience some stage fright. I mean, I really experienced a lot of intimidation just kind of in proximity, because I used to carry so much anxiety about being around people that for some reason felt unsafe to me, that made me feel small. Okay. And so I screwed up my courage and had this very assertive, kind of heavy-handed woman and her husband for dinner. And I remember just kind of praying about it and feeling scared, uncomfortable. And I said, and it was like the Lord inspired me to ask the question, well, Lord, how do you see me in the spirit? Because I'm feeling like, they've got all, the numbers are here, and this is how our town is and our state and New England is defined, and we're the minority, and we're all these things. And this woman has just kind of been a very assertive, strong-willed person, and I'm kind of feeling like the 60-pound weakling here. And so the Lord gave me a picture of myself, and I was. Did you guys ever see Shrek? And I wasn't the beautiful princess Shrek. I was that big. I was like the big trolly Shrek. When I was kind of big, and I could take a thing and Kong somebody over the head. I was like, oh, Lord, I mean, so I could have, wanted to see myself as a woman on a horse riding with Jesus with my hair flowing in the background and a sword, and no, I was like this funky big Shrek person. I kind of laughed. I went, really? Yeah, that's kind of, how you walk. And then another time I was feeling really intimidated, and the Lord said, you kind of live in a little tree house that you have like a fort, and you seem to sort of lob spiritual warfare out there and like go hide in your tree house, like you're, and he said, that is a really interesting way to do it, Julie, as if you're going to be in your little safe bubble, and then you're going to just throw mud balls at the enemy, take that, and then run back inside your treehouse. He said, I'd rather to see you more like rolling in a fiery, liquidy bubble that you could move out into the community and roll into and carry out, and that you're kind of enclosed in this almost drop of mercury. Remember the old days people used to play with mercury? Thank goodness I didn't. I have enough to deal with. And you need to see yourself this way, right? And so just be really, really aware. This is the season of the Exorcist. We're living in, and Dilly said it today, we're observing a national exorcism. And people are really manifesting. And it's coming out, and it's coming out very quickly. Who we really are is coming out. And it's been difficult and sad when the COVID thing hit. I was really looking around for who was going to take to the streets and start laying hands on everybody, and who was going to, be at the forefront of fear-free ministry out there, and who was going to be on the edge of fighting against government tyranny and overreach, and it was kind of like the Lord said, well, I guess it's you. I guess you better do your part, because if you're waiting around for people that you've assumed are going to do it for you, it's not going to happen. And I remember talking to the wife of one of the largest prophetic ministries in the country. Her husband is number 2, and they are top notch. If anybody hears from God and knows what's happening in heaven, it's these people. So you'd figure that the people in their ministry underneath that would be, yeah, raw. And she said, well, Julie, and this was said to me by another ministry of a wife of a prophetic church, that heaven to earth type of church. And they said, Julie, you'd be surprised. Some of the people that are the most into supernatural stuff are the most scared. And this other lady confirmed it in their ministry too, that the people that are, running around seeing angels and, lots of fun stuff, some of them are the most, you'd think they would be the most cutting edge. Maybe we're in our little hut up in our angel revelations, just throwing mud balls at the enemy and running, And she said, I have to say this one woman said that people are really showing their true colors. To see, I watch you now as living in fear, and how they behave and what they're doing, and the level of self-preservation. And she said, it sort of took her breath away, and it sort of took my breath away. Well, there are disadvantages to seeing that about ourselves, and things I've seen in myself over the last 6 months that I'm not proud of and I don't like. But there is something to be said for the process of exorcism, of getting out, exorcising. Ex means to remove out of you, to get out of you what's there. And of course, a lot of demons are manifesting, and we don't like that. But I'll tell you, if you're ever in a meeting that's full of the power of the Holy Spirit, demons will manifest, and it's kind of ugly if they know how to do it and not give them the center stage, but people know how to handle that. But if you think about how many times those same people who are manifesting the demons in the meeting walked in and out of countless church services through their whole life, and there was never enough move of God and power of the Holy Spirit to cause the demons in them to be uncomfortable, that's where we've been. But now this thing is coming out, and there's so much of an assault. There's so much of a move of God. There's so much of a plan. There's so much of a takedown in our country, and dealing with all of these forces of the arenas of government and media, and they're so deeply threatened that there is national demonic manifestation happening right now. And there is manifestation coming out of us, and it's coming fast and furious. Every day we're having a chance to frame or reframe what's happening and how we're going to respond. Somebody said to me last week, well, Julie, I'm sorry you went through that. No good deed goes unpunished. And I didn't have a chance to write back, but my first thought was, no, that's not what's happening at all. No, that is the wrong frame for this photo. This is not no good deed goes unpunished. This is no winner ever stops. And so I'm on it. I'm moving past this, and I'm not giving it my attention. No winner leaves the field. Right? No winners leave the game. That's what this means. Last night after our thing, I got a text from somebody who said, wow, I got confronted by somebody who was upset about blah, blah, blah because of your thing. And the text said, the devil never stops. And I said, well, actually, the Lord never stops. And we took major ground. The enemy doesn't like it, and he's throwing a tantrum. And that's what happened. So let's just double back and say no to that. And we're going to secure the perimeter now of our new territory, right? And it was interesting that, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I got some decades under my belt. And for most of them, this is not how I thought. I was constantly living in an unconscious acceptance that a shoe was going to drop out of nowhere and it was probably going to make me feel unsafe. And this is how I lived. This was my interior life, and it was completely the norm. And to wake up at this decade, after all God has done, and realize that my default is now, wow, how are we going to win this one? If you knew me, now people will say to me now, I never knew because you always came across confident. Well, it doesn't really matter what everyone thinks about you out there. It's what you know is really going on in here and how much you've left on the field because of your fear and anxiety constantly. How much we just leave on the field. I'm going to go in my little safe bubble in the church or my prayer meetings, lob that spiritual warfare at Satan, run away, go back and hide. And this is ostensibly how I lived most of my adult life. But just like I said yesterday when I had to start my scope 20 minutes late because of an appointment, better late than never. And this is what I meant to say yesterday, was part of reframing who we are is to say, that was then and this is now. And my new frame is I'm a winner and I refuse to lose. And I refuse to lose my nation. I refuse to lose my joy, my spiritual atmosphere. I refuse to lose the high ground in this conversation. So I need to tell you, no, it's God who never stops. And it's the enemy who has limited resources. And that's how this is really happening. No, what's really happening is that the president has the juiciest opportunity to become compelling and to lead people out of fear because he's got a positive COVID test. That's what's happening. And something else, just, something meant to harm Melania, this whole secret tape. Oh no, that's actually going to make her a very sympathetic character. Oh no. Look, there's people over there like we talked about on the Feast of Trumpets. On the Feast of Trumpets, there's 3 categories. The books of heaven are open. There's the holy righteous. They're ready to meet the God of heaven. There's the holy wicked. Their destinies are set. Then there's this intermediate period between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, where God is working with people before the gates close and the judgment ends. There's some holy wicked people that have really made decisions. We're not going to fix them. We're not going to change them. They might get swept up in a great move of God, so we continue to pray and we continue to love because that's how we win. But there's a whole group of people in the middle, and there's a whole place in you in the middle that needs to decide which one you stand on, winning or losing, confident or constantly disappointed. Well, I'm kind of skeptical, so I'm not really going to buy into this optimism thing because, that's more intellectually honest. See how it plays out? No, Satan's really mad at us now. This is why so many people that you're attracted to say over the target, over the target, over the target. I don't even like that anymore because it makes me feel like I'm up there and they're hitting me with the flak. But you get the idea is, we're the threat. We're the threat. We're the threat. And one of the things that another person said, James R., which was just, I'm paying attention to who frames and reframes. So his thought this week about the issue of Ilhan Omar in Minnesota and the crazy, wacky buying of ballots and votes in her district. And the extent that it's gone on and what we're finding out about this across the country. You know what his response was? Not, oh my gosh, it's so terrible how much voter fraud there is. We better pray, oh my gosh, because we're going to get screwed in November. We're not going to, he did not go there at all. Do you know what he said? He said, if they have to work this hard to cheat on votes, there are way more of us than we ever realized. We are way more of a conservative country than any of us have been aware of because they have had to work so hard to cheat in so many ways. That's genius. Did you even think of it that way? Did that ever occur to you? My first thought was, oh my gosh, we better pray, we better pray, we better pray. Yes. Must we? Mustn't we? Yes, we must. James R's thing was, wow, we're a whole lot more looking like Shrek's girlfriend than we ever thought. Isn't that beautiful? Is it just confirmation bias? Are we just living in a bubble? What do you guys think? Is all this just confirmation bias that we just kind of, is some of it? Yes. But you know what this guy used to say about interpreting scientific data related to creation or evolution? This professor I did some classes with said, the issue is what's the best bias to be biased by? Because everybody has a bias. It's not having no bias. It's choosing the best bias to be biased by. So I choose the bias that makes me happy. I choose the bias that makes me loving. I choose the bias that makes me glad to be who I am. I choose the bias that's taken me out of my little bubble wrap world and made me go out and bring and compel people into relationship with myself and with the Lord. I choose the bias that makes me want to get out of bed in the morning and rise to my feet and get busy working. You know, there was a Pew Research thing, I was looking at it about why conservatives are happier than liberals. And of course, then all the people had to pick it all apart and one of, you know, but it was interesting because they had to just jump on this survey that showed that conservatives are happier people than liberals. And you know, and we've learned this with the Q thing and with voter fraud and all these things, if somebody's working really, 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 really hard to stop an idea, it must be a very threatening, scary idea. So when people just had to come out and smack down and rip the Pew Research thing apart, they could not get away from the reality of the fact that conservatives are, in the survey, were much happier than liberals. So again, what's the best bias to be biased by? I want to be biased by the one that makes me loving and willing to risk, more innovative. And so my daughter came in and she was like, Mom, you know, because we were upset about the debate, you know, just it wasn't a happy experience, okay? And she said, yeah, Mom, but if you keep listening to these people that, you know, just tell you good stuff about it, you know, maybe that's not good either. And I said, I hear you. I think you've got a point. I think that it's good for us to challenge our thinking and to see from different things. But at the end of the day, I am going to default to somebody that helps me see a possibility in it instead of a defeat. Not whitewash everything's perfect. It's like the Access Hollywood thing with the president. Was he a jerk? Did he say some really rotten stuff? Yeah, were we proud of him when that happened? Before the 2016 election? No, we were like, ugh. But there was so much possibility wrapped up in that whole thing, and it wound up being a turning point in his own humility. What possibility of victory is wrapped up in the thing that's provoking you right now and me? And what's the next one? Can we practice? Let's just agree together as a little group of fear-free liver learners. How about that? Fear-free liver learners, a liver in here, that we are going to set our hearts on framing what is coming out of the possibility of the winning that's bound up in it, that's in it. God's DNA is a winning DNA, an overcoming DNA, right? And so in every attack of the enemy is already the DNA of what God, of the enemy meant for evil, God meant for good, right? Is the reframing in the DNA package of every trauma. And the guy from the Brownsville Revival, the pastor there, John Kilpatrick, said, everything is Father filtered. Remember Satan had to go before God to get permission to mess with Job? Everything's Father filtered. So let's make an agreement that we will shake on it, that we will be really, really intentional, especially over the next how many weeks when we're in our 9th month of pregnancy with the next move of God, that we will be very, very diligent at putting on the glasses of opportunity and possibility. And sometimes that means we're going to have to repent and admit where something didn't work and we were wrong, or it sucked, or that wasn't a good choice, or that was a weakness, that was a missed opportunity, But that's an opportunity cost. Mistakes are an opportunity cost, right? Failure is an opportunity cost. So this is where we're going to go. This is where we're going to head. And I want us to be really, really careful and pay attention to those little micro messages that come up in us the second something looks cruddy, all right? And let's determine to frame them out of what is possible in God and what victory looks like. And remember, better late than never. Whatever you did, spending however many decades of your life being where you are and doing this, you don't have anything better to do with the rest of it than get really free, really healed, really whole, and really happy. So even reframing how many years you've spent being miserable and terrified, it's time for a new thing. It really is. It really, really is. I'm on Subscribestar. I've already got some folks who have subscribed at the level, which means I get to meet with them personally on a monthly basis to sow into their lives, and I'm setting that up. And there's some other neat things that I can offer, and you go ahead and invest in your mental health as fear-free liver learners. So, and I'm going to have some t-shirts because Lisa Perna told me so, that say, fear cannot live here. Won't those be cool? All right, you guys. So go do something that scares you, like reframe yourself out of the pit. And if you want to support me and also have an opportunity to receive some direct work together from me, with me, go to subscribestar.com and check out Julie Lavender. And the album I played for you today was Good Woman. That's my title track. The song that a woman writes when she never gets asked out. When she's reframing her life.
A good woman when you see one.